Hi everyone, this is Katie and welcome to this intermediate vocabulary class in Linguistico. Today we're going to learn 18 phrasal verbs with the word up, like cheer up, grow up, make up. Okay. These verbs can be tricky for speakers of English as a non-native language, but they don't have to be. So we're going to learn these 18 phrasal verbs because they're used frequently in conversation. So after we learn each one, we'll have a brief conversation about the word. So I'll ask you some questions, just an informal conversation so that you can practice using these phrasal verbs with the word up. After we learn our 18 phrasal verbs, we'll write some silly stories in a Google Doc using these 18 phrasal verbs with the word up. Okay. So, like I mentioned, these verbs are used frequently in conversation, and we'll practice using them today both in conversation and in story writing. Okay. So, Igor, how are you? Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm cold though. It's very cold where I live.
Where do you live, if I may ask?
Sorry, what was that?
Where do you live, if I may ask?
Oh yes. I live in the United States, in Ohio. Yes, we have a lot of snow. It's snowing right now.
I
Yeah.
heard about it. And I gather where you live, snow is not something you see every day.
It's not something that we see every day. We see it in the winter. Um, but usually it doesn't snow this much. Last year it snowed, but just a little bit. This year it snowed a lot. And how about in Russia? Does it snow frequently or not so much?
Well, I think snow is the second nature here. So that's probably it's like there is a lot of snow in the winter, in the winter. So it's
Right,
like
same here.
I'm just used to it.
You're used to it. Right, and are you used to the cold? Like very low temperatures?
Well, I think I am. It's like I live in the western part of Russia. No, not western part, but in the middle of Russia. It's like Western Siberia, so it's kind of cold here.
Mm-hmm. Right, it is here too, because the problem isn't just the snow, it's also the temperatures because it's been so cold. It's been with the wind chill. The wind chill is something that we use to describe what the temperature feels like because sometimes it feels colder because of the wind. So with the wind chill, it's like below 0 degrees Fahrenheit.
Well, we have another thing. It's like bone-crushing wind. It's like when it's the wind is blowing, and you can feel the wind on your bones. It's like that cold.
Right. I like that phrase, bone-crushing wind. I'm trying to think if we have something similar in English. I can't think of any phrase that we have that's similar, but I understand what you mean. It kind of it goes to your bones. It makes you really cold.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. All
So
right. So
what's the temperature like? Like
oh
right
sorry.
now?
What's the
What's
temperature like?
yeah.
That's a good question. Let me check really fast. I know that it's snowing right now. Let's see. Current temperature 18 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not too bad.
Fahrenheit. Can you convert it to Celsius?
Let me
Because
see if I can find. Um, I'm really bad with conversions. I'd have to look it up on the internet. Fahrenheit to Celsius. Let's see. Let's see. So 18 degrees Fahrenheit would be almost negative 8 degrees Celsius.
well, it's kind of moderate, but I think it might be cold for someone who's not used to it.
Right,
It's
I think
like
it is too.
no, here we have a famous proverb. I don't know what famous saying maybe.
Hmm.
We say that there is no cold, there is no too cold. there is bad clothes.
So like there's no temperature too cold, there are only bad clothes that don't protect you
Yeah.
from the cold. I like that saying. There was another saying that doesn't have to do with weather, but it was like there's not such a thing as too strong coffee. There's only weak people.
I think that's true.
You think it's true? I think it is too. But right. So anyway, Igor, we I see what you wrote. 18. I'd be lucky to remember a couple of them. So there are 18 different phrases, but I think you'll probably be familiar with a lot of them already. So
I
we're
hope
gonna,
so.
yeah, yeah. So we'll take a look at them and see which ones that you know already. So I'm going to do a screen share to show you because I have a little PowerPoint presentation, and then, like I said, we're going to just kind of practice these in conversation, just in a relaxed way. And then if we have time at the end, we can write a silly story in a Google document to incorporate this vocabulary. Okay,
Sounds
so
great.
okay, excellent. All right, so I have to do the entire screen for this to show, so just give me a second. Okay, or this should be 18. I think I deleted one. I forget how many there are. I think there are 18. Okay, so how many of these look familiar to you? So we have take up, give up, come up.
Show up, come, break up, pick up, keep up, get up. Well, they all kind of look familiar.
Okay, so they all kind of look familiar.
Maybe take up.
Take up
I don't
is
know.
one that.
It's like I only know of take up arms, like taking weapons, but I don't think it's the meaning you meant here.
Okay, the take up is a little bit different. We'll learn about what that one means. Do the rest of them look pretty familiar to you?
Well, you can be sure with the phrasal verbs.
Right. Sometimes it's difficult because sometimes they mean more than one thing, right? So sometimes we can have one phrasal verb that has a couple different meanings. Okay, but we'll go through these and see if what you're thinking they mean is what they actually mean. Right, so the first one, take up, is to start something. So we use it a lot with hobbies. So for example, I could say, I just took up, in the past tense, I just took up kickboxing at the gym. So I just started it.
I see.
And is there a hobby or an activity that you have taken up recently?
Well, it's kind of hard to think of something I just took up. Maybe computer programming. I took up computer programming. I've been dabbling with it. It's not really serious, but I just dabble with it.
Right, well, we can say that with take up too, even if you're just dabbling in it, which is a good vocabulary word. Even if you're just dabbling in it, you can still use take up. So for example, if I dabble in painting, I can say, oh, I took up painting.
I see.
So you took up computer programming.
Yeah.
And go ahead, sorry.
Difficult. Yeah.
And Igor, how did you take up computer programming? Did you take courses at college or did you learn on your own?
Well, I have a friend who's, pretty good at it. So he kind of shows me how to develop,
Mm-hmm.
how to become better at it. It's like he has a company, and he has a vacation for me. He is
Awesome.
kind of wishes me to join him, but he's kind of, I don't know. It's like it doesn't really sound like me.
Uh-huh.
But so far it's been pretty good. It's not like something that it was confusing. It was confusing, but not something I can't just figure out. something like that. It's okay.
Right. So like you said, your friends kind of told you, or he taught you a little bit about computer programming, and it was a little difficult at first. And so, what kind of programming is it? Is it C++, or is I didn't know
No,
too much about. Mm-hmm.
it's about web developing, like PHP, CSS, Ruby, kind of like this.
Oh, excellent. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
Someday I will have to learn how to. Someday I'll have to take up computer programming.
It wouldn't be I wouldn't necessarily, endorse this kind of thing.
You wouldn't recommend it.
Well, maybe, but not necessarily.
Uh-huh. And why wouldn't you necessarily recommend it? Because it's difficult, or?
It's like there are a lot of activities, and some people just, better suited for something. Like they have skill set,
Right,
maybe
exactly.
humanitarian things. So it's
No, I
like if it's
understand.
something that you feel you can do, so no
Mhm.
problem. But if it's something you've never even dabbled in, so it may be really frustrating.
Right, that's true. If you take up a new hobby, or you take up something that you have never learned before, it can be very difficult. And do you have to use a lot of math in computer programming?
It's not. I think math is not really that important to this. You have to understand it, but it's more about functions, and those functions usually they're just pre-built. You just figure out how to use them, the pre-built functions.
Okay, that sounds
You
very
know,
interesting.
there are things when you have to compose your own function, but usually, uh, it doesn't really require a lot of math. It's like more about logic, not about math.
Okay, so it's more about logic. That's interesting. I'll have to investigate that a little bit more. So you said that you took up computer programming. Are there any other hobbies that you have taken up, like running or drawing?
No running. I don't
Running?
like running.
Oh no, you don't like running, so you have not taken up running.
Yeah, I like playing hockey, but it's a hobby I took up long ago.
Okay, so you took up hockey when you were very young then. Okay,
Yeah,
excellent. Let's see, the next one. This one you've probably heard of. To give up. Have you heard this before?
yeah, of course.
Right. Yeah, this is probably one of the most common ones. So to give up something is like to quit something. Um, so so for example, if someone is doing their homework and they say this is too hard, I give up, then they quit. And have you ever given up something in your life?
I used to smoke, but
Uh-huh.
I gave up smoking like
Oh,
about three
excellent.
years ago.
All right.
So it's
So
been
that's a good
3 years
example.
free of smoking.
Okay, excellent. All right. So you can say I gave up smoking um, 3 years ago, and that's really good because it's really good for your health to give up smoking. Is there anything else? I'm trying to think if there's anything that I've given up or given up on.
Well, talking
Okay.
about computer programming, I might just give up, at some point.
So at some point you might give up vodka. Okay. So sometimes people talk about giving up alcohol.
No, it's also not a problem, unfortunately.
Right.
I'm not the kind of guy who likes alcohol.
Mhm. Right. Excellent. Um, oops. And I don't, let's see, Igor, I think maybe if you lower your volume a little bit, or if you use earphones, that might
So,
help because I think there's some
echo.
echo going on.
Sorry. Uh,
Oh, that's okay.
Let me just plug in my headphones. Is it better right now?
I think so. We'll see if we have any problems. But did you hear earlier in the conversation, though, sometimes there would be an echo of my voice?
No, I didn't hear an echo of your voice.
Oh, maybe it's just on my side then. We'll see if we have any problems, though.
Well, I hear you just fine. So it's
Okay,
probably,
excellent.
it was probably my fault.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure whose side it's on, but we'll see if it works. Okay, and then this one, Igor, to screw up. This is kind of, it's not really vulgar, but it's not something that you should say in a formal conversation. It's a little impolite to say screw up just because it sounds kind of strong. Have you heard of this word before?
Of course.
Of course.
It's like, and I've heard, you know, a much more vulgar variation of it.
Right. And if you want to use a less vulgar version, you can say to mess up, because that's not as strong. So can you think of a time when you really screwed up or you messed up? For example, one time that I really screwed up was when I had a test in one of my classes and I woke up late and I went into the class very late. And luckily I was still able to take the test, but it was very stressful because I almost missed it. So I really screwed up or messed up when I woke up late that day. So can you think of a time? Sorry?
Talking about tests, I screwed up a couple of them.
You screwed up a couple of them.
Yeah.
So what happened?
I just didn't pass.
Oh, okay, so you didn't pass.
Yeah, I just have to retake the test.
Okay, right. So like you said, you can say that like, oh man, I really screwed up on that test. There were a lot of questions that I didn't know. And were they, was it an English test or was it a different test?
Well, I can't really remember. Like I said, I screwed up a lot of tests in my life, so maybe a couple of them were in English.
Okay, so there's a variety. There have been a couple times where I've screwed up on a test, and I made a lot of stupid little mistakes, and that was frustrating.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Right. And that's the worst feeling too, when you know that you screwed up on a test and you're waiting for your grade because you know that it's going to be low.
No, so now sometimes you can just take another chance of taking the test. So.
That's true. In your university, do they let you retake the test?
It depends, you know. It's like if it's not a mandatory test, maybe not. Not you know, it's not a good description. It's like there are subjects that you have to know. It's like, for example, if you're going to be an engineer, you have to know math, you have to know technical math. And if you screwed up there, they usually don't let you retake the test. But if you screwed up at history, for example, then they will gladly let you retake the test. So it kind of depends.
Okay, so it depends. If you screw up or you mess up on a test that does not have to do with your major, they'll let you retake the test.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes they do that here.
Yeah. So you just have to know. So you just have to know which test you have an opportunity to screw up.
Right. Exactly. Right. Because usually, it's interesting. In the United States, usually they don't let you take a test again if you screw up. However, you can retake the class, but this is this is a big commitment, because if you have to retake the class, then it's a lot of time that you have to spend. So for example, if you mess up in, let's say, chemistry class, and you can take chemistry again the next semester to get a passing grade.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Happens here too, especially if a teacher is particularly bad. Well, like, I don't know. It's like sometimes there are people that just want to play really really bad at you. Like, I don't care about that you messed up. You have to be prepared. There are
Right.
people
There are
like
some
that.
professors. Yeah, there are some professors like that are, that when many people fail the test, they say, "Well, you should have studied," and they don't really care.
Yes, usually when I was in the university, uh, professors that have personal conflicts with students, they would not let them retake the test.
Oh,
It's like
really?
if a student was really bad, like he was playing truant for the whole semester.
Hmm.
So it's like I think they have a right to act upon them in this manner. Like if the student really doesn't look like he wants to learn, then why you should give him a chance?
Right. I agree with that to a certain extent, because, like you said, if someone is truant, the whole semester they never attend class, and then the last week of class they say, "Oh, well, no, now I need help," and then the
Yeah,
professor sometimes says, "No, you messed up. You should have come to class."
yeah.
So that
Well,
happens here too.
they would say the vulgar version of it.
They would say they would say
In
it
this
more
case.
vulgar. Right. I don't think that they could do that here in the United States, to be vulgar with them. I think someone would complain.
What proof
Okay.
will they have? You know?
That's true. Yeah, it's kind of one person's word against the other person's word. Um, Sometimes we call that like a he said, she said scenario.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. All right, so the next word, Igor, is cheer up. Have you heard of this one before?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, that one's pretty common too. So, like, to cheer up. What situations would you tell someone? In what situations would you tell someone to cheer up?
If somebody, being really sad, maybe. Like, cheer
So
up.
someone's really sad.
It's not the end of the world. Something like that.
Right, exactly. Right. So maybe if someone breaks up with their boyfriend, or they lose a job, then we
Well, if
can tell
it's
them.
yeah, so kind of depends on the seniority of the situation. It's like if the situation is really bad, maybe you could just say, "Hang on, not cheer up."
Right. Yeah, so that's one thing that's important too, that you don't always want to tell someone to cheer up, because if something is very serious, like something very bad has happened to them, you don't want to be like, "Oh, cheer up, don't worry."
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. The next one that we have is to make up. And this actually has a couple different meanings. I just mentioned one. Have you seen Pinocchio, the character on the bottom of the screen?
Yeah, no. Every time he makes up something, his nose grows.
Mhm. Right, exactly. So when you make up something, it's like, excuse me, to invent something that isn't true. Like, oh, he made up that whole story. None of it was true.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
it's like an event.
uh,
It's like
sorry,
an
go ahead.
event.
Right,
Sorry, it's like an event.
right. So it's like an event. Sometimes people can lie about events. Um, and have you ever made up a story or made up a scenario? For example, maybe when you were younger with your parents, or Have you ever made up something?
Unfortunately, yes.
Uh, and do you want to
Especially,
share, or is?
well, there were too much of them, too many of them to really remember anything. But it was really like when you go late, it's when
Uh-huh.
you show up late at school, and somebody asks you what happened, why we were late, and you make up a crazy story like you've been deterred by some kind of a crazy dog or something like that. Or maybe
Right. So that's one thing that.
when you didn't do your homework, you say my dog ate it, something like that.
Right. So exactly. That's one thing that people make up a lot. A lot of people make up things about school. They'll make up a story about why they don't have their homework. They'll say my dog ate it, or someone stole it, or they'll make up a story about why they're late to school. And so
Some
did you
people even
what?
the craziest thing I've ever heard, but it actually works. Like it wasn't me, so I can take credit for this. But one of my
Uh-huh.
friends at school, he didn't do his homework. He wasn't prepared, and when asked why he wasn't prepared, she just said, "I didn't think it was Thursday. I thought it was Friday."
But that doesn't make sense because if it were Friday, then she would already have her homework done, right?
Yeah. So
Oh
it's
goodness.
like he didn't really need, like it wasn't the time for the homework.
Oh goodness. Yeah, you have to be careful when you make up stories. One thing that I think is terrible that people do is, for example, at college, I've talked to some of the professors, and they say that students near the tests, they'll send them emails and say, "Oh, my grandma died," or "My grandpa passed away," and they'll make up stories about their relatives passing away or dying so that they don't have to take the test because they're not prepared.
That's a bad thing to go about it. It's like
Mhm.
you don't involve other people in something you make up,
Right, exactly. Right,
especially
because
family, I think.
right, yeah, and it's a bad idea too because sometimes they don't realize that they've said that multiple times. And then so the professor says something like, "Well, you've said that your grandma has died 3 times now, and I don't think that's true."
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of an issue. Okay. The next one is to look up, which is like to find or
Yeah.
search for. Right. Um, for example, when you have to write a paper, where do you look up information? Do you look it up on Google or on another website?
It's usually Google,
Usually Google. Same here.
and especially like look up words in the dictionary. It's something second language learners really know about.
Hmm. Right, exactly. That's something that I do a lot too, is to look up information online to learn a second language. So if I'm not sure about a vocabulary word or a verb, then I can look it up.
Yeah.
Mhm. And what do you think our parents did? Because imagine that they were in school and in college, and they couldn't look things up on Google when they had to write papers.
Well, I think they used books.
Uh-huh.
Like going to a library and trying to look up information in a book, in an actual physical book.
Hmm. Right. Right, I agree. I think that's the way that they did it, but I can't imagine not being able, like, writing a paper without Google. Um, I think
Well,
it's just,
uh, I've been there when there was no internet in Russia, so I
uh,
know a thing or two about this.
right. I do too a little bit, but it was when I was very little. When I was in elementary school, uh, we had internet, but the internet wasn't very popular yet, so we had to look up everything in books.
The same things like internet was there, but it was kind of dial-up, and
Hmm.
it wasn't real easily. It wasn't easy to access, and it was really, really slow, like really sluggish. So it was
Right. So
more
it
of
was
a pain.
right. I remember when we had dial-up internet, it was also very sluggish. If you wanted to watch a video on YouTube, it took the entire day to load.
Yeah. If I may ask, how old are you exactly?
I am 23 years old. How old are you?
I see. So we almost peers. I'm 25.
Okay, so you're very close in age then. So we were both pretty young when the internet became popular then.
Yeah.
But
So it
now we
was
can use it.
uh,
Mhm.
well, sorry, what's the verb like when something is just growing up? You say fledgling or something like that, like a fledgling internet.
Fledgling, yeah, you can use that, but it's more like I don't know if I would use it with internet, but you can use it. It's an adjective to describe something that's in its beginning states. So you could say it's like a fledgling company or a project. Um, but yeah, that's the correct word. I'm just trying to think of in what context to use it. Um, so right, you can say, or you could say like the internet was in a fledgling state. You can maybe say that. Um, yeah, it's just not a word that we use a whole bunch. But
Yes, yes.
does that kind of help explain it a little bit? It's you can use it in that context, but you would probably want to say it's like in a fledgling state. The internet was in a fledgling state.
I see. I see.
Mhm.
So it's like maybe internet was in its infancy.
Right, that's a really good way to say it. That something is in its infancy, stages of infancy. So you could say, well, the internet back in 2000 was in its stage of infancy. Mhm. Excellent. Okay, and let's see, the next one. Have you heard the word setup?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like you said me up.
You can also say it like that, right? So I have it as to arrange something, like to set up a meeting is to arrange a meeting. But if you use it as a noun to say that, like, this is a setup, what does that mean if you say
Yeah,
it like that?
it's like somebody tries to trick you.
Right, exactly. Right, so if someone tries to trick you, you can say, this is a setup.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And have you ever been set up before? Have you ever
Not
been
not blatant, not blatantly, but
tricked?
yeah,
Not
I've been set
blatantly.
up.
So you
Yeah,
have
it's
been
like
set up, but
you know, I've been set up, but sadly,
uh-huh.
it's like it was kind of it wasn't really this serious, but like if you dig dig something up, you'll realize that you've been set up.
Uh-huh. Right, I understand. Um, right, so you said that you've been set up, but it's always been something subtle. It's never been something that was very obvious.
Yeah, and I don't like this.
I don't
I
like
like
it
people
either. I
going.
think that it's mean.
Yeah, I know. I like people going up straight about their business.
Hmm.
Like show your place, show what you think. Don't try to be both good to you and trying to set you up. In the process, like not being sincere in my
Exactly.
opinion.
Right, I agree with that. I think that it's best to be um, transparent, to be transparent and very clear about your intentions and to
Yeah, I
not set
understand.
people up. Hmm. Right, so very good. And then, right, I totally agree with your opinion on that. it's not good to set up people. Okay. The next one, to show up. This one you've probably heard of as well. It's just to arrive somewhere.
Yeah. Show up, like show yourself.
Right. Right. To like show yourself at a party or to show yourself in a place. So for example, have you ever showed up at a party where you were not invited?
A lot of times. It's kind
A
of.
lot of times.
I feel. Yeah, it's kind of feel like to do. No, it's like I've been too pushy there. Like I show up, I just say it, I just tell them that I don't care about you not inviting me. Then I do something fun there, and it just go away. I'm not trying to be too confrontational there, but I'm just trying to make a statement. You know?
Mhm. Right. So you just show up and you say, okay, well, I'm gonna have fun, and I don't care that you didn't invite me. And in Russia, is it what do people think when someone shows up at a party uninvited? For example, in the United States, it's pretty rude to show up at a party if you were not invited. But I know that this depends on the
No,
country.
it's it depends. Really depends on the situation. It's like, for example, if it's not your business. Like it's a party that was set up by people who you don't even know. So
Mhm.
just show up there is kind of meddling. So it would be rude. It's like it's not your business. But if
Right.
your friends trying to make a party, they just forgot or something like that. Just forgot to invite you, and just come up there, and it's not a big deal.
Hmm. Right. So if it's like someone that you know pretty well, then it's not a big deal. But if it's someone that you don't really know, then it's rude.
Yeah.
Hmm. Right. That's kind of how it is in the United States too. Let's see. The next word that we have is to come up. Do you know what this means? If something
Come
comes
up
up.
with something. Yes, I know.
Okay.
It's
Could
like
you explain it?
it's kind of difficult. I know when you come up with something, like you think of something. come
Right.
it just comes up. I think when it comes up, it's like it comes to be. Just came up this way. Maybe turned out.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's kind of hard.
And also,
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So, like you said, you can say to come up with something, and that's like to think of something. Um, or it can be something that happens or appears unexpectedly. So, like a virus came up on my computer, it happened suddenly, or like
yes,
I can't come to the party, something came up. Um, One tip, if you're ever trying to make an excuse in English, this is
no,
something that we say a lot.
but
Something came up.
I've heard something's come up. Not just something came up.
Uh, right, so we could say something has come up, something's come up, or something. That would probably be the most common. Something's come up, or in the past tense, something came up.
I see. I see
Right, and so
that Americans don't really care about present tense, simple tense, and perfect tense. They usually
right,
mix
so
it.
sometimes it depends. Right, so sometimes we can use them, use both of them. Like if someone told me something's come up or something came up, like they have a slight difference in meaning, but they're pretty similar. Like they get across the same idea.
Yeah, it's like something happened. I need to deal with it.
Right.
Sorry, I'll go about.
Exactly. Right. And this is a really common excuse because you don't have to explain it. So you don't have to say, well, like my dog ate my homework um or I was late for the bus and I couldn't come to the meeting. You just say something came up and you don't have to explain it. And
Yeah,
have
it's
you
a,
ever made an excuse? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
sorry. It's like it's a sorry. It's a lazy excuse, you know.
It is. It's a very lazy excuse. And is there something like this in
Uh,
Russia?
yeah, we just say something happened. We don't say something came up because we don't have this kind of phrasal verbs thing. I just say something happened. I have to go.
Uh, right, so you do the same thing in Russian then, where you just say, well, something happened, something came up, and you don't explain it.
Yeah.
Uh, and have you ever used this excuse before? And when?
I think everybody uses this excuse. Like, it's convenient,
Hmm.
uh, as you as you as you said. You don't have to explain it, and especially when you don't have time to explain it. You just say something came up, and you just go, and
Exactly.
you're just making other people know that you're in a hurry. So
Right,
it's
exactly.
like they don't want to ask you what exactly happened.
Right, that's a good point that like you mentioned, sometimes you don't have time to explain everything, so you say, "Oh, well, something's come up." And and like you said, I agree. It's kind of a lazy excuse because you don't have to explain it. You just say, "Well, something came up, so I can't go to the party or I can't do something." Um, and a lot of times this is a lie too. Sometimes people will say, "Oh, something came up," but it really hasn't. They just don't want to go somewhere.
That's true.
Mhm. Okay. Let's see. The next one is break up, and that you've probably heard of this one before, Igor. So can you explain what this means to break up?
Well, like break up in pieces or break up a relationship.
Right, you can use both. All right, so you can break up something into pieces, or like to break up a relationship,
Yeah.
right? So like the example, Ross and Rachel broke up in Friends.
They did it a couple of times.
Sorry, what was that? I couldn't hear what you said.
They did it a couple of times. It's like it's not even used anymore.
Right. What we say in English, we actually have a phrase for this. If there's a couple that breaks up and then they get back together and they break up and get back together, we say that it is an on again, off again relationship because they're back
uh,
on, they're
yes, it's like kind of switch.
right, exactly. Right. So that's something that we use to describe relationships like that. On again, off again. Okay. So Rachel and Ross had an on again, off again relationship. To pick up, this has a couple different meanings. Um, so can you explain what this means, Igor, if you've heard of this one before, to keep up some, or sorry, to pick up something?
Well, it's usually like when somebody learns something. It's like where did you pick it up? Maybe
Oh, I
usually
didn't, yeah.
it's usually when it's a bad thing, like a child learns a swear word, a really bad word, and parent may just ask, "Where did you pick it up?"
Right, exactly. That's a good use of that word, Igor. I didn't think of that one. But yeah, if someone picks up a bad habit, it means that they've kind of learned that bad habit. And then the parents say, "Where did you pick it up? Where did you pick up swearing? Or where did you pick up this bad habit?"
Yeah, and usually
Hmm.
when you want somebody to drive you somewhere, it's like, "Can you pick me up on your way home?" It's like you wait, he drives up, you go into the car or something, and they pick you up there. You just drive
Right.
there.
Right. Excellent. Right. So you can also use it with people, like to pick up someone. And we can also use it like to lift up something. So, for example, I could
Uh,
say,
from the
like
floor.
if it, right from the floor.
It's
Right. So,
like,
like if a kid is making a mess.
sorry, the first thing when I heard pick up is the sense of lift up from the floor. It's like I saw a movie and one guy tried to chat up a girl and she didn't like it. and just say, if you call me princess, you're going to pick up your teeth up off the floor.
Oh goodness. Oh wow, that's another thing though too. Actually, that reminded me. There's a lot of different words with this in English. We can also use the word pick up with dating. Have you ever heard of pickup lines?
Hmm. Not necessarily. I don't know. It's kind of. I need more explanation here.
Okay, so this is another use of the word pickup. It's a noun. Okay, so if
Ah,
we have
I
something called
see.
pickup lines. Hmm.
I see. It's like
And
when you go to girl and trying to pick her up. It's like trying to start a relationship or something like that.
mhm, exactly. And pickup lines are usually pretty cheesy. They're kind of corny. Like, for example, if a guy talks to a girl and he says, "Hey, did it hurt?" And she says, "What?" What? And then he says, "Oh, when you fell from heaven because you're an angel." So something like that is a pickup line.
We
And
have this word. In Russia, we use it. We say pick upper.
oh, really?
It's like someone who, who just exerts in doing this kind of things. It's like they make a sport of it. Like they
Oh,
try
really?
to,
Interesting.
yeah, pick upper. I don't know if it's an English word.
Um,
It's kind
we probably wouldn't say that in English. Like someone who picks up, we'd probably say like he's a player. That's kind of an informal word. But if someone is always trying to pick up girls and he's using lots of pickup lines, then he's kind of a player,
let's see what we say pick upper.
a pick-upper. I like that. And what do you think of pickup lines? Do you think that they are effective? Um,
I think it
you
depends on the person.
mm-hmm.
Some some people like them, some people just hate them, and all
Uh-huh.
you have to do, is just to determine who likes them and who doesn't, and it's not an easy task.
Right. So you kind of have to be strategic about it to know what girls like pickup lines and which ones don't.
Yeah,
Right. I
and
don't know
usually just
many
take your
people.
chances.
Hmm.
It's like you just take a chance. It's like quantity makes quality.
So you think that if you just go out and you use lots of pickup lines, then eventually it will work.
Yeah, somebody will fall for it.
I think statistics are in your favor. Um, oh, and have you ever seen Friends? The sitcom Friends with Joey?
Yeah,
Yeah, Joey uses a lot of pickup lines.
he's kind of stereotypical Italian, I think.
Right. Kind of. Right. So right, so he's kind of he's a little bit of a player. Right. So we can use pickup in that sense, like with pickup lines, or to pick someone up in a car, or like you mentioned, to pick up a habit. Like where did you pick up swearing? And then to pick up something off the floor. Or we could also say like to get something, like can you pick up groceries on your way to the mall? Or can you pick up milk on your way to the or on your way home?
So if somebody goes to the kitchen, can I say, can you pick up a glass of water for me?
I'm trying to think. Can you pick up a glass of water? It sounds a little strange in that context. You'd probably just say, "Can you get me a glass of water?" To pick up,
Hmm.
if you use it in this context, it kind of has to be farther away. So it has to be out of your way. So, or not out of your way, but far away from where you are at. So, for example,
Uh,
if I'm at home and I
yeah.
call someone and ask them to pick up groceries, it means like I want them to get groceries.
Man,
I'm trying to think of how to explain it. It's kind of hard to
well,
explain. I could give examples, but
I think I understand. It's like if somebody, you couldn't say this if somebody is going, for example, to another city, and you
Mhm.
can say, "Can you pick up some souvenirs for me from there?"
Right, exactly. Right, so we could say that too, like, could say, "Oh, you're going to Argentina? Can you pick me up some, uh, I don't know what you can get in Argentina, but can you pick me up some souvenirs?"
Ghosts,
Right.
some ghosts. There are a lot of ghosts there.
There are a lot of like
Ghosts.
goats.
Yeah,
I
they're kind of.
uh, I've never seen a goat
They're
in Argentina.
well, here in Russia, we think that they are famous for herding.
Oh,
It's
really?
like, yeah, they have a
In
good
Argentina?
meat. Yeah, they have good meat.
Oh, yes, they do. Their steak is very good. So I could say,
Like cows, goats, this kind of animals.
okay, so we could say that they have a lot of livestock. Livestock refers to animals like that are on a farm. Okay, so Argentina, they have a lot of livestock. So I could say, can you go to Argentina and pick me up some
Livestock.
probably not livestock. It would be kind of hard to take to take a cow back on the plane. But maybe can you pick me up some steak? Well, you can't take that on a plane either, but maybe some cookies or something.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see. And to keep up, we have I think let's see, one, two, three, four, a couple more. Um, so to keep up is like to continue at the same rate. Have you heard of this one before?
Yeah.
Right. So like, if someone's running really fast, I can say I can't keep up.
Yeah. It's
Or
like it's. I heard it's hard to keep up with the demands of the global market.
right, exactly. Like it's hard to keep going at the same rate.
And especially if like I don't know, like somebody doing a good work, you just go out there and say keep at it.
Hmm. Right. And one thing that we say too in the United States is like to keep up. Uh, have you ever heard of the expression to keeping up with the Joneses?
I don't know.
No, it's kind
Not
of a
sure what
strange
Jones is.
expression. Joneses is just a last name. It's a common last name in the United States. But when we talk about keeping up with the Joneses, it's like, for example, if the Joneses have very nice things, they have a nice car, they have a really nice house, they have money. If you are keeping up with the Joneses, it's like you're buying all of those things to appear to be rich, but you're not.
I see.
Uh,
Yeah,
so
I see.
in Russia, is there a pressure to keep up with the Joneses, like to buy material things when you
Well,
can't afford them?
we have a word for this, but I'm not sure it translates to English.
Uh,
It's like, it's like show offer. What we say, what we talk about it, like trying to
right,
show
we could
off. But
say.
it's we think that this is really really silly because even if you
Mhm.
try to keep up with Joneses, as you said, but it's usually really easy to see who's trying to keep up with Joneses and who's really really rich.
Hmm. Right, I
So it's
agree too.
like
I think it's silly.
they're pretending.
Right, exactly. Because a lot of times too, people when they're keeping up with the Joneses or they're trying to keep up with the Joneses, like going the same rate as them and buying things, they get into a lot of debt because they buy things on credit cards. They buy things that they can't afford, and I agree that it's very silly because you can tell that that they're not happy. That it's kind of pretend. Hmm. Oops. Right. So I'll write that expression down too in the chat box after the PowerPoint, so you can remember it. This one to get up. That one. I'm sure you've heard of that one. Have you heard of the verb to end up?
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of times in English we'll say like someone ended up doing something. So ended up and then the verb in the ing form is kind of a way of saying like what someone did. So I can say, oh, he ended up marrying his high school sweetheart.
Right.
Right. Or she ended up living in Australia. So what were some of the things that people in your high school that you graduated with ended up doing?
I don't know a lot about them, but I just keep in contact with a couple of them.
Hmm.
Most of them were decent. Some of them ended up like engineers. Some of them ended up, uh, you know, I don't know even word for this profession. It's like they taste goods, like
Hmm.
like wine, some sommelier or something like that. Kind of
Oh, really?
particularly, yeah, it's a particularly strange thing. To
Right.
me.
So, mhm. So
What is the word in English? We say sommelier in Russian.
for what's the word for what?
Ah, a profession when you taste wines,
Oh, a taste tester.
taste tester.
Mhm. And you can be a taste tester for wine, for food. So you know someone that
Okay.
ended up being a taste tester for wine.
Yeah.
That sounds like a nice job.
He's fond of it.
Great. So excellent. Right. So it seems like a lot of people in your graduating class ended up pretty well.
I, I,
Um,
I can hear you. So
oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
yeah.
Right. So it seems like a lot of people ended up pretty well in your high school class.
Yeah,
Let's see. We'll go,
not so well, but it's another topic.
oh, right. The same thing has happened with mine. It's kind of strange though because in my class, a lot of people have ended up getting married to other people that they graduated with, and they ended up having children at a younger age. And it kind of surprises me sometimes, and I'm like, oh wow, they already have a family, or um, they got married. They ended up in that situation.
Why not? If they love each other, I don't know.
Right, exactly. If they love each other, it's no problem. It's just kind of surprising. Let's see, we'll go over the last ones kind of quick because they're almost out of time. But have you ever heard if someone blows up on someone?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do they do if they blow up on someone?
They start to scoff you.
Right. So they start to kind of like get very angry at you, to yell at you.
Yeah.
And have you ever
What's the
had
right
someone?
pronunciation? Scoff, or like tell somebody off.
Right, exactly. That's a good one to tell someone off. Is how we would say that. Like if someone blows up on you, they tell you off. They start, yelling at you. To scoff is kind of like to scoff. Um, you can't use it as a transitive verb, so you can't say like to scoff at someone. To scoff is to kind of say something with disdain. So I could say like, "Oh, that's great," she scoffed.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Hmm. And have you ever had anyone blow up on you?
Yeah, a lot of times.
A lot of times. Have you ever blown
Yeah.
up on anyone?
I try not to, but sometimes it's hard.
Right.
How
I try
to
not to as well.
restrain yourself,
Right.
especially when you're angry and somebody just get there, not in their best time.
Right. So you can say like if someone gets on your nerves, um,
Yeah,
or if someone. We also say in English if someone pushes your buttons. Like if someone pushes your buttons, they try to annoy you, and then you blow up on them.
yeah. But I didn't mean actually like somebody's trying to irritate you. But when you're pretty angry, when you're upset, something bad happened, and somebody just comes there and says something that is really like it makes you angry. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to make you angry, but they just said something that made you really angry. It's like it made it worse, you know.
Right. So
And then you
sometimes
just
people.
blow up on them.
Right. So sometimes it's not
They,
intentional.
we have, we have a good expression in Russia for this, but I don't know how to say this in English. We say when somebody got under your hard hand. It's like when you're already annoyed, and somebody just not knowing this, but they just, I don't know, just annoy you even more when you're already annoyed.
Uh, this see, I think in English we would say, um, sometimes we say it gets under my skin, but we don't say that too much. I think the most common one is to push your buttons. So like if someone is kind of annoying you, like if someone pushes your buttons, they do things to try to annoy you, and they just make you more and more angry. Is that kind of the same thing, or is it a little different?
No, it's different because they're not they're not trying to make you angry. They just show up in the worst time.
Uh-huh.
Like you're already angry with someone or with something like something that happened. You're really upset. You're not in the mood, and somebody just
Yeah.
maybe try to just say something they don't want to make you angry, but they just say something that makes you angry, and it makes you angry because you was already angry. You know,
I see. That's interesting. I don't know if
and
we
then
have
you
an
jump on
expression
them.
for that. I'm gonna think about that, Igor. If I can think if we have an expression for that, I'll let you know. Because nothing comes to mind right now, but I'm trying to think if there's an expression like that in English, for that. I can't
Also,
think
it's
of one
like
off the top of my head.
maybe it would be more appropriate, maybe more understandable in English, like when you ease off your anger on somebody who's not involved. You know,
Hmm.
like you're angry not at this person, but you're still blowing up on them because you need to steam off your anger somewhere.
Right. I don't think there's like a common phrase for that in English, but sometimes we can say it's like displaced anger. So you're not angry at that person, you're just stressed out about something else and you blow up and it's kind of displaced. But that's more of a technical term rather than than something that people say a lot.
I
Let's see.
see.
I think we have four more that we'll just go through really quick because they're almost out of time, or three more. To put up with. Have you heard this before?
Yeah, teachers usually put up with me.
No. So, right. So teachers say this a lot, like to put up with students, but um, but this is kind of a negative connotation though. So like to tolerate something or to endure it.
Put
A
up
lot
or
of
shut
times,
up.
right. So sometimes people say that like tolerate it, put up or shut up. Um, or like sometimes people will say like I cannot put up with this, I cannot tolerate it, I cannot put up with your problems. Um, the next one that we have is to act up. Have you heard this before?
Well, I heard act out, but I think it's pretty similar.
It is pretty similar. Like actually, I think they're pretty much the same meaning. Like to act out is like if someone's trying to get attention. To act up is like to throw a tantrum. So
Oh, I
this is
see.
usually with children.
I remember I heard an English teacher say that Google was acting up on them.
Oh, actually, yeah, you can say that as well too. Because it can be to throw a tantrum, but it can also mean that something is not working. So if like Google is not working with me, I'm having problems with it, I can say, oh, Google is acting up for some reason.
Yeah.
Right. Like yesterday, Hangouts was acting up on me because screen share was not working, and I was
Yeah,
frustrated.
this happens.
Exactly. And then the last one that we have is to clear up something. So this is
Mm,
like to solve a mystery um, or a problem, or it can also be for whether, like if the
yeah,
clouds or rain go away, it clears up.
that's true.
Hmm. let's see. So we're pretty much out of time. Let me see if I can. Oops. There we go.
Thank you for
All
going
right, so
through
Igor.
with the lesson, even if we are
Oh,
out
no
of time.
problem.
I appreciate it.
Right, yeah, I know we're a little over. But did you, I know you said that you were familiar with most of those lessons before, Igor, but did you learn any new expressions or new uses of a word?
I learned a couple of new uses, but it's
A
not it's
couple.
kind of. I already knew them, but I didn't realize it. But it was okay. It's like I like English.
That's good. Right, so we can kind of practice them in conversation a little bit too. So we call that like passive vocabulary, like that when you see something, you recognize it, but that you might not use it every day.
Yeah, that's true. It's like vocabulary activator.
Right. Right. So I hope that this lesson was helpful for you. And a couple of things too, if you want to leave me feedback, you can go on your dashboard and say like I like this part of class or I didn't like this part of class and rate it. And you can also see what classes are coming up.
I see. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming to class and participating, Igor. I appreciate it.
Thank you for teaching me. Bye.
All right. Bye. Take care.